Let's explore the secrets of concentration, analysis, mindfulness, and meditation. This evening's lesson is drawn from a good-hearted question found on Reddit, which begins, new here and confused about something. What does meditation mean? 1 or 2? Number 1, sit and focus on your breathing and bringing back your attention when mind wanders off. Or 2, sit and specifically dedicate your time to think about all the things that need your attention. Let's say throughout the day, something happened and it was bothering me. So does meditation mean to sit at the end of the day and focus on relaxing myself, focus on breathing, and bringing myself back whenever my mind thinks about that bad incident, which happens earlier, earlier in the day? Or does it mean that during meditation, I will specifically reflect back on that incident and think things through? Let us begin with broad brushstrokes. Number 1, thank you for such an enthusiastic, well thought out question, and thank you for your mastery of English. It's a delight. So your question is predicated upon the conditioning, the cultural conditioning you have received, and perhaps the specific influence that different books or different teachers have had on you. And that is perfectly understandable. In the world of meditation, there is a lot of confusion, and I found the easiest way to cut through that confusion is by viewing the wild world of meditation through the metaphoric lens of neuroscience. So let's do that right quick. First off, a bit of a review. About 100 years before the advent of the Buddha, be he real or purely archetypical, Lao Tzu is said to have composed the 81 poems of the Tao Te Ching. In it, we learned not only the difference between yang and yin, but, unpopularly enough, that we were supposed to eschew yang and always choose yin. But what do we mean by yang? Yang means that when we default towards yang, we are habitually rigid, fearful, superstitious, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel. And a lot of people tell you this is the way to be a mover and shaker. However, a minority of humans are enthusiastic about the path of yin. They're enthusiastic about being flexible, loving, rational, laid back, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind. And these two worldviews affect how we meditate. So most of us have been taught, once again, culturally and from books and from teachers, that we are to actively concentrate and actively analyze. Those are even given fancy names like samatha and vipassana, if you prefer Sanskrit. I'm sorry, Pali. But what are the neurological ramifications of such choices? Practicing either one of those will force us to rely upon certain structures, such as our medial prefrontal cortex or our dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. Please forgive the simplicity of the diagrams that I'm using. Now, our prefrontal cortex is a handy-dandy hunk of meat, and it's really important for comparing and contrasting and computing and reasoning. It's fabulous. But like anything that is, we overuse anything at our peril. Every teenager, every kid in junior high learns that the hard way and really chafes at the same from one point on occasion. What happens when we overuse our prefrontal cortex? According to fMRI studies, functional magnetic resonance imaging studies, this thing right here, the approximate size of a walnut, this thing called the amygdala, which functions as the seat of both aggression and anxiety, lights up like a Christmas tree. Additionally, if we persist in overusing and downright abusing our prefrontal cortex, we will present with the symptoms of depression, which is darkly ironic. Now, here's some good news. Our central nervous system consists of more than just our prefrontal cortex and our amygdala. The Buddha taught an eightfold path. The seventh fold is mindfulness, or sati, if you prefer Pali. And we can begin there with mindfulness. Every time we inhale, whether we know it or not, we are wired to effortlessly and automatically access our sympathetic nervous system, whether we know it or not. This sympathetic nervous system is found within the middle third of our spinal cord. It evolved to perceive vulnerably, passively, viscerally, and randomly. Now, does this sound like yang or yin? It's yin. So if our prefrontal cortex is yang, actively concentrating, actively analyzing, then our sympathetic nervous system is yin, which is fabulous. But there's a dark side. We're wired to notice so many things. We are wired to notice sights, sounds, sensations, flavors, scents, and the like. We're also wired to notice emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings. We are wired to notice whole spectrums of things, from the external to the internal, from the physical to the mental, from the pleasurable to the painful, from the interesting to the boring, from the glorious to the grotesque. And this, yes, this can get overwhelming, but there's good news. The eighth fold of the Buddha's eightfold path is meditation. And every time we exhale, whether we know it or not, we are wired to access our parasympathetic nervous system. This bad boy is ensconced within the lower third and the upper third of that same spinal cord. Our parasympathetic nervous system is wired to support both physical relaxation as well as mental release. Now, just as we go through life with taking more than one inhalation and more than one exhalation, similarly, we go through life noticing and releasing over and over and over and over. It's not a one-time deal. Perceptions are not bad. Release is not good. They both simply are. We need them both, actually. And so what keeps us sane is this autonomic nervous system consisting of the sympathetic and parasympathetic facets that helps us to process what goes on. So the intrepid individual who asked the question, the answer is neither. Our job is not to concentrate and then repair our concentration, for that is yang. Our job is not to analyze, for that is yang and exhausting. And we will wind up painting ourselves into a corner like a protagonist in a Gary Larson Far Side cartoon. Instead, as we sit comfortably in meditation, we breathe in and we breathe out. Now you might say, well, if inhalation and exhalation are already linked to our sympathetic and our parasympathetic nervous systems, why meditate at all? And the answer in one word is Urkel. Our brain acts like Urkel. Good-hearted, clever, but klutzy as hell. In other words, our brain has made a career out of stepping on its own dick. But there's good news. During our inhalation, if we silently, mentally, and passively recite the demonstrative pronoun this, we will find that our brain is spontaneously cooperating with our sympathetic nervous system. Similarly, during our exhalation, when we silently, mentally, and passively recite the one-syllable verb ease, our brain will spontaneously cooperate with its parasympathetic nervous system, which is fabulous. This helps us. As we sit in meditation, we will notice all manner of things. Think of it this way. Imagine the whole prospect of meditation was like going to see a play. Neither you nor I, or the producer, the director, the playwright, or the thespian, or just some bloke what sits in the audience watching the antics on stage. So we sit in meditation, using the only label we need use, this, and resolving that which we perceive with ease, breath after breath after breath. Sometimes that which we notice will be pleasurable, sometimes painful, sometimes interesting, sometimes boring, sometimes glorious, sometimes grotesque. Sometimes questions are answered with solutions. Sometimes questions or problems or conundrums are answered with more questions. Instead of choosing, we've been conditioned in late-stage capitalism to be go-getters, to always be grinding. Meditation is not the time to grind. It's to sit back and enjoy the show. Now, there's some really cool fringe benefits. Check this out. Remember how we talked about overuse of the prefrontal cortex will light up your cranky and anxious amygdala? What's the antidote for that? You guessed it. Spending some quality time relying on our sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems. Not only, where's the cursor? Not only does it calm down the amygdala, but it lights up this weird thing here. This thing that kind of looks like a baseball mitt. This thing that the big kids call the anterior cingulate gyrus. This thing that functions as the hub of our mirror neurons and the seat of empathy and compassion and love. 50% of the Buddha's Eightfold Path pertains to loving kindness. 50%. This is why the greatest Dzogchen lamas of Tibet have insisted that the highest love is spontaneous and uncontrived. What happens when we apply that love's centered spontaneity to our choices, utterances, and deeds? That we practice the effortless effort that makes of our life a blissful delight. Our mind can be a 3-ring circus. And believe it or not, that's good. The constant motion in our brain. Remember when we were kids, especially if you're as old like me, remember back in the 70s, we would stand in front of the TV set impatiently looking for something interesting, just cranking the channel until it sounded like a machine gun? Our brain does that, switching from sights to sounds to sensations to flavors to scents and the like, switching from one emotion to the next emotion. Switching from emotions to intentions to thoughts to memories to imaginings. And it doesn't take long for us to viscerally get that there is change, and that change affects every circumstance and every body and every relationship and every mind. Ever changing one and all, there is nothing permanent to grasp, and this change reveals to us the absurdity of clinging to things as if they were static and impermanent and unchanging. Mindfulness and meditation are more than the 7th and 8th folds of the Eightfold Path. They are the engine that drives the enlightenment machine, the thing that generates the remainder of the Eightfold Path effortlessly. Our built-in therapist, our built-in spa treatment. Mindfulness and meditation, to a certain degree, is ubiquitous in the mammal kingdom. Consider the stereotype of a cat sitting perfectly upright, gazing at what appears to be nothing. Or a dog doing a similar thing with a smile panting through his mouth in a manner that looks like he's smiling. This is Mother Nature's way of preventing psychotic breaks. Why do we meditate? To become the people that our dogs already think we are. To process the gurk. It doesn't take very long to realize that every human is capable of the full spectrum of human emotions and intentions, from the glorious to the grotesque. When practiced properly, mindfulness and meditation help us to be our best selves. I do look forward to chanting and meditating with you after approximately 30 seconds of housekeeping. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. For more than 30 years, I've spent about 8 hours a day, almost every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each sect of Buddhism so that you would not have to. Welcome, my friends, to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. I think it could be fun to play with the latest iteration have diamond minds, easy meditation. Of course, that reminds me of the David Bowie song, The Diamond Dogs. The second fold of the Eightfold Path is loving intention. Let's play with loving and let's bring the 4 bases of mindfulness into the path of loving intention. Beginning with the mental. Please chant with me. May all clear minds, let's see, try this again. May all minds of all beings know be as peacefully enlightened as the mind of a real or imagined Buddha symbolized by a tikle, one syllable seed or bija mantra. So what we're going to do is we're going to take all these words and condense them down into just 6 syllables, which we're going to divide between our inhalation and our exhalation. We're not trying to work magic, we're not trying to believe, we're not trying to visualize, we're just playing with words silently, mentally, and passively. And in so doing, we're exercising the neural pathways responsible for empathy. Now that we're comfortable with these 6 syllables, we're going to recite them during our inhalation. During our exhalation, we can physically relax as best we can, while striving to chant this 6-syllable mantra 8 times per breath. And if this is your first time joining me, please give yourself permission to have a learning curve. Om Vajrasattva Hum Vajrasattva Hum Om Vajrasattva Hum Vajrasattva Hum Om Vajrasattva Hum Vajrasattva Hum Om Vajrasattva Hum Vajrasattva Hum. Please chant with me. May all relationships or speech of all beings now be as joyfully loving as a real or imagined Buddha speech symbolized by a horizontal mala mantra. So, mala just means your mantra is arranged in a circle. And horizontal means it's like a frisbee at your heart. Om Vajrasattva Hum Vajrasattva Hum Om Vajrasattva Hum Vajrasattva Hum Om Vajrasattva Hum Vajrasattva Hum Om Vajrasattva Hum Vajrasattva Hum. May all bodies or forms of all beings now enjoy the beautiful health seen in Buddha's statuary, depicting the blissful body of a real or imagined Yidam archetype of enlightenment such as Vajrasattva. Om Vajrasattva Hum Vajrasattva Hum Om Vajrasattva Hum Vajrasattva Hum Om Vajrasattva Hum Vajrasattva Hum Om Vajrasattva Hum Vajrasattva Hum. May all circumstances or thoughts of all beings now have the good fortune or boon. As a Buddha's real or imagined paradise, pure land or vati. Om Vajrasattva-hum, Vajrasattva-hum, Om Vajrasattva-hum, Vajrasattva-hum, Om Vajrasattva-hum, Vajrasattva-hum, Om Vajrasattva-hum, Vajrasattva-hum. Together as a team, let us meditate as transformative. Having exercised the second fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path, let us turn our attention now to the first fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path, where we train and release. Or to be more eloquent, we bring the four bases of mindfulness, the circumstantial, the physical, the interpersonal, and the mental, into the ultimate practice of love and release, where it is release that is emphasized. Please chant with me. As we relax into our exhalation, how good appearing circumstances or lots that we perceive during our inhalation. Feel as non-graspable of what is a Buddha's real or imagined paradise, pure land or vati of light. So, what do we mean by void? Void here was void or emptiness are meant to be used as a figure of speech. We describe something as being as non-graspable as a vast empty void. What's a real-world example of that? How about the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which, although could be tantalizing to the eye, is intangible to the hand. So voidness or emptiness is just a fancy way of talking about the experience of non-graspability. So as we relax into our exhalation, whatever we noticed during our previous inhalation could feel less graspable, less permanent, less solid, less defining, less tantalizing, less horrifying, less limiting. So we're going to take all these words and coalesce them down into 8 syllables, which we're going to divide between our inhalation and our exhalation in the form of a rhetorical question. So it's no coincidence that we are relaxing. Not only that we relax during our exhalation, but that we consider non-graspability, which makes of grasping an absurdity during our exhalation. Om Vajrasattva-hum, Vajrasattva-hum, Om Vajrasattva-hum, Vajrasattva-hum, Om Vajrasattva-hum, Vajrasattva-hum, Om Vajrasattva-hum, Om Vajrasattva-hum. As we relax into our exhalation, how good all sensual bodies or forms that we perceive during our inhalation feel as non-graspable or void as an archetype of enlightenment or yidama of light. One moment, if you please. All right, let's try this again. Let's take it from the top. As we relax into our exhalation, how good all sensual bodies or forms that we perceive during our inhalation feel as non-graspable or void as an archetype of enlightenment or yidama of light such as Vajrasattva. Om Vajrasattva-hum, Vajrasattva-hum, Om Vajrasattva-hum, Vajrasattva-hum, Om Vajrasattva-hum, Vajrasattva-hum, Om Vajrasattva-hum, Vajrasattva-hum. As we relax into our exhalation, how good all resounding communication that we perceive during our inhalation feel as non-graspable or void as a Buddha's real or imagined speech or mantra of light. Om Vajrasattva-hum, Vajrasattva-hum, Om Vajrasattva-hum, Vajrasattva-hum, Om Vajrasattva-hum, Vajrasattva-hum, Om Vajrasattva-hum, Vajrasattva-hum. As we relax into our exhalation, how good all perception, emotion, intention, cognition, recollection, or imagination that we notice during our inhalation feel as non-graspable or void as a Buddha's real or imagined. Oopsie, let's try this again. Feel as non-graspable or void as a Buddha's real or imagined suitable or bija of light. Om Vajrasattva-hum, Vajrasattva-hum, Om Vajrasattva-hum, Vajrasattva-hum, Om Vajrasattva-hum, Vajrasattva-hum, Om Vajrasattva-hum, Having chanted and passively contemplated first love and then release. Now let us bring whatever we spontaneously notice into the path of awareness and release. But how shall we do that? As we inhale, while silently, mentally, and passively reciting the demonstrative pronoun this, we can kick back and watch the antics of our mind as it perceives, emotes, intends, reasons, recalls, and imagines. As we exhale, while we silently, mentally, and passively recite the one-syllable verb ease, we can relax into mind's non-graspable nature. Let's do this for approximately 5 minutes. Let's seal this practice by chanting love and letting go's wishes for universal enlightenment and well-being. Together. May all minds of all beings lucid yet void now be as peacefully enlightened as a Buddha's mind symbolized by a one-syllable mission. May all speech of all beings resounding yet void now be as joyfully loving as a Buddha's speech symbolized by mantra. May all forms of all beings sensual yet void now be as beautifully healthy as a Yidam archetype depicted in Buddha's statuary. May all lots of all beings appearing yet void now be as safely fortunate as a pure land of law represented in Buddhist paintings. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. In approximately 11 and a quarter hours, I would very much like to return to lead tomorrow's early meditation class and group practice. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.